Another ancient god fell forever at Martin's feet. It is foreseeable that this is by no means the end, but just a trivial beginning. In the future, there will be more and more terrifying ancient gods. As long as they stand up to block Martin's progress, they will be strongly conquered by Martin. Life or death. Dormammu's huge amounts of body. The corpse is on an extinguished fixed star. Even if it is dead, there is still a terrible dark power surging on it. Martin stood on this fixed star, and the terrible gravitational force acted on him, without causing him any discomfort. He looked down at the huge corpse and did not speak for a while. You have done something that even cosmic gods who have survived for hundreds of millions of years can't do. Martin, you have created another miracle. Ancient One also looked down at the dead enemy's body, and said lightly. Martin glanced at Ancient One and said calmly, "This is a miracle for you, but for me, it's just a very ordinary thing. Don't use your shallow vision to define my steps." Ancient 125 was startled, just smiled, but deep in his eyes, there was a hint of jealousy. Not long ago, she was at war with the man in front of her. At that time, she was planning to defeat Martin and imprison him. Thinking about it now, it was too naive. Martin's methods were endless, and they would never be able to be seen through. Advertisement: you didn't hesitate to fight me at the beginning, and even planned how to take my infinite gems step by step. This is an adventure for you with huge amounts of. Tell me, what did you see through Time Gem? Martin turned to look at Ancient One. What if I don't say it? Then I don't mind leaving you here now and taking the Time Gem away. I'll see for myself, Martin said coldly. Ancient One shook his head. It's useless. The future I can see is because I stood at the time point at that time. Even if you take away the Time Gem now, the scenes I see will be completely different from the future I see. It's different because, from the moment I failed to grab infinite gems, the direction of the timeline was completely different. Then tell me immediately, what on earth did you see? Do you hesitate to do it with me? Martin approached Ancient One step by step, his eyes sharp, and a subtle solemnity. Ancient One was silent for a while and replied, I have seen death, and I am looking at death in the future of Time Gem. I saw Thanos wiped out half of the entire universe's population, but the Avengers and X-Men failed to save the defeat and fell forever. I saw the hell swallowing the world, countless demons enjoying roar among the corpses, and the king of demons, Ceterak, sitting on the throne, arrogantly overlooking your corpse. I saw the god of black magic return for you. Darkness swallowed the dragon and destroyed the entire world tree. But in this disaster, there is no shadow of Emperor Weixin. Every time Ancient One uttered a word, Martin's brows wrinkled tighter. Advertisement looking at death. There is no doubt that what Ancient One sees is the duplication of death in this universe. As for Thanos, half of the population has been wiped out. The significance of this is also very interesting. It means that in the future seen by Ancient One, Martin without infinite gems, Thanos, the Destiny's son, is still the final victor. The latter two make Martin even more concerned. Setolik and Sithorn. They're multi-level universe gods, who can fight against the 5 great creation gods. Come for me? Martin looked serious and asked again. Besides coming for you, I can't think of any other reasons. Ancient One answered. Martin sneered immediately. At the same time, there was a little more urgency in my heart. Needless to say, the first demon of Marvel, Ceterak, the source of strength of Magneto's powerful subordinate Juggernaut, is actually derived from Ceterak. As long as Ceterak wants, he can descend into this universe through Juggernaut at any time. More worthy of attention is the god of black magic, Sithorn, the god of chaos. Sithorn is the ultimate source of all black magic in the entire multi-universe, and Chaos Force, one of the 3 powers of the multi-universe, is completely obtained and perfectly controlled by Sithorn. You can imagine how terrifying his strength is. And Sithorn also has another identity. He is the god of the 2nd generation ancient world tree, one of the 4 chaos gods. Advertisement: it is one of the top 4 existences of the ancient gods before the 3rd generation of gods, such as Odin and Jade Emperor, who can be copied infinitely by multi-universe. Odin, Zeus, Jade Emperor, and others. Multi-universe is not worth anything at all. Every universe has their peers. But Sithorn is different. Looking at the entire multi-universe, the second-generation Chaos God system represented by him is unique, unique forever, and not torn by the multi-universe replication rule. In this case, I have to get in touch with that woman in advance. Scarlet Witch. Martin took a deep breath, and a cold light burst into his eyes. There is no doubt that Sithorn is an unprecedentedly terrifying enemy with an extinction bonus. Originally, he didn't intend to touch Scarlet Witch at all. It was because this woman was so terrible. She was a chaos force from Sithorn. She might get out of control immediately after being stimulated and began to err every second. Ancient One, when the time is up, I will ask you to get the time gem. You know how you deceived me. Martin walked in front of Ancient One, put a finger on Ancient One's shoulder, and said coldly, also, forget the future you saw before. Now you use time gem to see it. What you see is absolutely the same as before. It's different. You have time gem, didn't you still fail to beat me? Ancient One frowned and said, what are you going to do? I have my plan. Far beyond what you can imagine. No matter how cruel the future is, I will use my fists to pull out those who stand in front of me one by one and kill them all. Seriously, Ancient One, hurry up and train Steven and retire. You really should go to multi-universe. The world is more exciting than you can imagine. Anyway, your body is already decayed, just abandon it. Martin opened a space-time vortex, raised his foot and walked in. Before leaving, he sneered and spoke. After Martin and Ancient One left one after another, the dilapidated dark dimension fell silent again, countless stars began to fall, and only Dormammu's body wandered endlessly. After a long time, a figure stepped into here. The dark dimension was beaten like this. Huh? Is this? When this figure saw Dormammu's corpse, he was stunned on the spot and his mind roared. Dormammu? Actually died? He was actually killed? Gao Tianjun looked shocked. He was already full of curiosity, and ventured into the dark dimension to explore. Considering that he is one of the oldest level godfathers in the universe, a member of the Cosmic Presbyterian Church, he is powerful, but he has this confidence. But he didn't expect that Dormammu was really dead. Gao Tianjun stood on the collapsed fixed star, his eyes widened, and he looked at Dormammu's body exaggeratedly. After the shock, he quickly showed his heart and greed. This is Dormammu's corpse, but the enemy didn't take it away? It's really an arrogant young man who doesn't care about the corpse of a black magic god at all. Gao Tianjun sighed with emotion, and then greedily grabbed his hand to the broken corpse of Dormammu and carefully put it away. Dormammu is dead. This explosive news, spread by Gao Tianjun, spread throughout the universe in an instant. Countless beings were shocked, with a look of astonishment, and could not understand at all. Dormammu, the terrifying Lord of Darkness, was killed by the terrifying god who swallowed countless worlds in the past? Advertisement, even the dark dimension has been destroyed. How ferocious the enemy should be, to this extent. There is no doubt that ordinary level Godfather can never destroy the dark dimension with Dormammu. Sure enough, was it infinite gems, the man named Martin, did he kill Dormammu with one hand? By collecting broken pieces of the dark dimension, then. Space Gem is in Martin's hands, this can be confirmed. He was only born in a remote and backward garbage planet. That kind of garbage civilization can't even come out of the fixed star system. Why can he do this, and why can he control the space gem? What makes many ancient cosmic gods and cosmic civilizations even more concerned is that a low-level human being in Martin's area. Why can he use the space gem to kill Dormammu? Why? Even the universe god dare not say that he can control the space gem, but Martin, a human being, did it. Not only was it done, but also used the space gem to destroy the dark dimension and kill Dormammu. It is simply a fairy tale. The name Martin is completely remembered by many ancient existences and civilizations. No one wants to provoke him until he finds a way to fight Martin. Martin's reputation spread throughout the universe. Especially when Martin and Dormammu went to war, the phantom projected by the occasional tearing of the dark dimension has been seen by some weak and primitive civilizations, and then the indigenous people above engraved the image of Martin on the stone with trembling. A grand ceremony is held day and night to worship. The impact of this battle was extremely far-reaching, and it also established Martin's position in the entire universe. Anyway, no one dares to despise a human being who can greatly display the power of infinite gems. Earth. A secret base in Hydra. A blue vortex appeared. Who? Advertisement, quick, guards, an enemy invaded. The entire base has long been equipped with a complex monitoring system, from electronic equipment to secret methods, from machinery to thermal imaging, enough to detect all intrusive strangers for the first time. Especially, this vortex appeared so abrupt and undisguised, and the huge energy response immediately triggered the alarm of the monitoring device. A large number of soldiers and Superman classes arrived. Energy guns stood up one after another, pointing straight at the whirlpool. A figure was slowly walking out of the vortex, with a plain face, as if it was not coming to invade, but to go on a tour. Martin stepped out of the space-time tunnel and looked at the Hydra soldiers around him indifferently. At the same time, his mighty will only swept slightly, and he noticed a lot of peculiar auras. At the same time, I felt that there were a large number of mind-shielding devices arranged around the base. Let your leader get out and see me, or you will die. Martin walked slowly with his hands behind his back, walking straight all the way, ignoring the soldiers around him who were facing the enemy. Whoosh! At this time, a missile struck suddenly. Martin glanced at it tightly, and with terrible pressure, he exploded the missile in a sudden. A vigorous figure Pooh came, raised his metal left arm, and slammed it at Martin. Boom! A terrible roar sounded, and this punch alone, including the explosive power and the powerful inertia from the rapid rush, the strength index has briefly exceeded 5 tons. But with the full punch of the soldier in front of him, even the steel would be dented, but he was gently stopped by Martin's outstretched palm. Advertisement in Winter Soldier's numb eyes, there was a wave of fluctuations, and a sharp warning sounded from the tempered fighting instinct. Hiss! Martin glanced at it, tugged lightly, and tore off Winter Soldier's vibranium arm. After kicking it out, Winter Soldier was like a broken kite, and flew upside down and hit the wall hard, with blood spurting out of his mouth. All the ribs in his chest were broken, and his internal organs were also broken. Had he not been meticulously modified by Hydra, and Martin had always had a half-playful mindset, Winter Soldier would have been killed. Diaresis, everyone stop and step back. Don't treat Hydra VIPs like this. A graceful figure walked slowly out of Ren. Mrs. Viper had a charming face, and at the same time, deep in her eyes, there was also a strong jealousy and fear. As the most powerful woman in the world, coupled with the secret control of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a news channel, she is too aware of the horror of this handsome man in front of her. This is, you can really fight against the gods, and defeat or even kill the opponent's people. If Martin is really angered, the huge Hydra will disappear. Considering that the opponent has a large number of shapeshifting diamonds, who are all proficient in electronic warfare, the entire Hydra will be invisible on the Earth. Your Excellency Martin, I don't know what Hydra can do for you, as long as it can be done, we will never refuse. Madame Viper bends down slightly, knowing whether it is intentional or unintentional, revealing a large swath of snow white on her chest, full and round. Let Strake get out and meet me, I'll come to you for 2 of you. Martin carried his hands behind his back, and his voice was flat. Eric's 2 children, I know that you have been arrested in secret. I want to take them away. If you dare to refuse, you will die. Madame Viper's movements became stiff, and the act of demonstrating capital after bending down deliberately also stopped. Huo Ran raised his head with a look of stunned expression. You actually know that they are in the hands of our Hydra. Things that even Magneto don't know, you actually know. Madame Viper was surprised and panicked. You know, after they captured Wanda and Pietro, they immediately carried out the secret blockade of the highest level. In the basement where they were detained, everything was completely sealed. Unexpectedly, this man still knew, and directly came to ask someone. If you don't give it, you will kill. Definitely, Honorable Excellency, Hydra is willing to help you. Madame Viper's eyes rolled around, and she turned her body sideways. Martin raised his foot directly and walked in, ignoring the guarding soldiers around him. It's all a bunch of rubbish, so what to guard against? The two of them walked all the way to the depths, and there were complicated shielding devices everywhere, blocking all the possibility of information leakage. We were very satisfied with these two little things, and planned to train them into powerful Hydra fighters, but you didn't expect you to see them too. It's a pity. Madame Viper twisted her waist like a snake, and at the same time she spoke with a soft voice, covering her mouth and smiling. But no matter how she hits sideways, she can't express Martin's words, and she suddenly feels helpless. In the end, in the deepest part of the base, a smiling man was standing respectfully. Advertisement, Your Excellency Martin, I am Baron Strucker, the head of this base and the head of the brainwashing project. Baron Strucker maintained a courteous manner and demeanor. Very well, Baron Strucker, you are good, Martin said suddenly. Baron Strucker suppressed the rising anger and humiliation in his heart, with a respectful look, just about to say something. Martin stared at him indifferently. Be my dog, Straker. Strack was startled, his face changed drastically, and he opened his mouth to scream, but the next moment, the yellow light flashed, and the power of Mind Gem emerged strongly. The psychic shielding device on Strack was instantly destroyed, and his mind was completely submerged in the vast sea of minds, and his mind was engraved with loyalty to Martin. Next second, Baron Strucker looked at Martin religiously, his eyes filled with enthusiasm, and respectfully said, My honorable master, your servant Strucker is willing to serve you. Mrs. Viper's face changed in an instant, and she took a few steps back in horror, but Martin, CFBD, didn't even bother to look at her. A waste is not worth wasting time. Together with the entire Hydra, waste is everywhere, and it will only hop around like a group of toads on a planet. Martin didn't want to play home with Hydra. In fact, if he hadn't thought about Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, he would come to this kind of ghost place if he was crazy. Boom. Martin raised his hand at will, and all the mechanical devices were controlled by him. At the same time, the stone gates without any mechanical and electronic equipment were also destroyed by Martin's gaze. In the deepest part of the base, two figures are being imprisoned here. Wanda and Pietro. What do you want to do? Pietro, who is tall, keeps Wanda behind him tightly. Seeing this scene, Martin was thoughtful. Advertisement. Sure enough, this universe still tends to be a little bit more in the movie universe. Pietro is the elder brother and Wanda is the younger sister. This is what happened in the movie universe. In all manga, anime, or games, Wanda is the older sister and Pietro is the younger brother. But it doesn't matter, it's all small details, and it doesn't hurt. Martin's gaze went directly over Pietro and settled on Wanda, looking at the horror woman who had rewritten the Marvel system several times with interest. After going crazy, a chaos wave destroyed the entire horror picture of Marvel multi-universe. Even now, Martin can still recall it. Damn bastard, if you look again, I'll gouge your eyes out. Pietro glared at Martin with a grumpy face. He realized that the guy in front of him was coming for his sister, which was unforgivable. Boom. Martin tore off the shackles on the cage, restraining the super ability cage, and lost its effect. Madame Viper looked shocked and disturbed. Your Excellency Martin, the other party is fast. Please be careful. You asked for it. Pietro looked surprised and brutal. His whole figure disappeared instantly, and he raised his speed to the extreme. The whole world slowed down in his eyes. This feeling made Pietro obsessed. No one can stay normal at my speed. As long as I run, no one in the world will be my opponent. Young and energetic Pietro, with a burst of mentality, rushed to Martin in a whistling. But the next second, his joyful expression suddenly froze, and while running, he watched Martin's indifferent eyes move in disbelief until it fell on him. It seems that this man can also keep up with his speed. How is this possible? Pietro gritted his teeth and smashed it with a punch. With the speed bonus, the punch's power was dozens of tons. Advertisement. As long as he is hit, he is dead. Boom. Too slow. This is the ultimate speed of yours. A waste one. Martin grabbed Pietro's fist tightly, looking disappointed. Originally looking at the other person's confident and arrogant laugh, Martin had expectations in his heart. But now, What kind of shit speed? That's it. There is no need to use the supreme god armor and infinite gems. He can easily crush Pietro by relying on himself, the body that has been continuously supplied with endless life and spirit by the fire. What's your speed? 10 times the speed of sound? Or 20 times the speed of sound? What's the use of that? That's far worse. Martin shook his head. Compared with the Flash next door, it's just Quicksilver. Although he doesn't have a DC side hanger like superpower on his body, the gap is too big, right? The speed of the Flash starts at several thousand times the speed of sound, and it grows to the middle and late stages. Running around the Milky Way twice a second is a normal operation, and the fastest 3 generations of the Flash have 13 trillion times the speed of light. When many supervillains are at war with the Justice League, in order to prevent the shameless guy the Flash from going through time and space to modify the timeline once they are defeated, they often concentrate all their wisdom and strength to kill the Flash first. This is the so-called DC side causality. Kill the Flash to sacrifice to the sky. The mana is boundless. Look at Quicksilver again. This is it. What kind of rubbish is this? It doesn't matter, I didn't come for you anyway. Martin shook his head and threw Quicksilver fiercely out, crashing into the wall with a crash. Madame Viper looked at this scene with amazement, shocked in her heart. How many soldiers did they lose to catch Pietro? What a painful price was paid. Pietro's terrifying speed is simply a nightmare. At that speed, even the most ordinary punch can beat a living person into flesh on the spot with one punch. But now, such a terrible Pietro can't survive in front of this man for a second? That terrible speed has no value in front of Martin. This is the level of the gods. Madame Viper looked fiery. Martin walked into the room and grabbed Wanda, who was shrinking. Go away. Wanda suddenly raised her head, her long hair flying, red light appeared in her eyes, and powerful power surged wildly. Good power, but not enough. Facing the surging magic power, Martin knocked him out with a single punch, raised his hand to pinch Wanda's neck, forcing him to look at him. Let her go, you demon. Pietro was emotional, but his whole body was almost broken. I won't do anything to you, now there is really nothing worthy of me. Martin cracked Wanda's chin, looked at it, and after thinking for a while, he directly used the mind gem, flashed with a scream, flashed a yellow light, and began to test Wanda's spiritual world from the very surface. The result is, everything is normal. There is nothing wrong, except for the depression caused by long-term imprisonment, which is very normal. Advertisement. Martin stared at each other thoughtfully. At the same time, he knocked down Pietro, who was rushing over with red eyes, and raised his hand to open the space-time vortex. I took these 2 people away, you know what to do. Martin slowly disappeared, taking Wanda and Pietro away. In the same place, only Baron Strucker with a fanatical face and Madame Viper with a changing face were left. The news that the Master is here must not be leaked. Baron Strucker looked at Mrs. Viper, with killing intent in his eyes. Mrs. Viper's face changed. Damn it, you bastard, would I take the initiative to leak out? It's hard to say, everyone knows that you are a poisonous snake. Straker sneered, and stepped closer. Earth base. Martin walked out of the vortex of time and space and threw the 2 out in a sudden. This is my territory. Don't worry about security. No one dares to come to me. During this time, you 2 should make up the news first. At least you need to know what's happening outside. After speaking, Martin turned around and left, leaving a bunch of brothers and sisters hugging everything tightly, uneasy. After a while, everything fell silent. I want to go out and have a look. Pietro staggered to his feet, even though his muscles and bones were about to explode in pain, he stood up stubbornly. Wanda hesitation. I will go with you. The siblings walked out of the room slowly and walked into the hall outside, startled by the scene they saw. On the huge amounts of the table, a variety of exquisite foods are listed, exuding a seductive aroma. A woman in black was waiting for them calmly. Advertisement. I'm still thinking about how long it will take you to have the courage to look at the outside world. I didn't expect it to be so fast. Very well, you have the consciousness of a powerful warrior. Woman in black clapped hands and applauded. Pietro blocked Wanda behind him. Who are you? I am Master Martin's servant, and also yours instructor. I will use the cruelest means to train you too. Believe me, the most painful memories you have experienced in the past will be a wonderful enjoyment. The dead woman stretched out her index finger, adamantium alloy nails quickly extended, cut a cake and laid out, and said lightly, first fill up your stomach, get used to it. Pietro stared at her for a long while, suddenly grinned, showing an ugly smile, and then suddenly began to run, moving quickly, about to hit the opponent with a fist. But the dead woman was just a sidekick, kicking Pietro out. You have an injury, and you can't get up to the speed that you were originally not good at. If I were you, I would never be so impulsive. The death girl glanced at Pietro with the same gaze at Erha, full of disdain, and immediately looked at Wanda, who was more cautious and had secretly brewed magic, showing her appreciation. You know how to hide your sharpness, I have to say. You are better than that fool. It's too strong. Wanda took a deep breath. The shrinkage on his face disappeared completely, his face was solemn, and he was silent for a while, sat down at the table, and began to pick up the food to eat. Find flowers, Wanda? Pietro cried out in embarrassment. It's okay, Pietro, if they want to kill us, there is no need to do so. I guess they have the same purpose as Hydra, they want to train us as tools for killing. Wanda kept eating food into his stomach, replenishing his strength, and at the same time, red lights flashed through his eyes, as if it would burst out at any time. This makes the dead woman even more appreciated. Pietro hesitation repeatedly, glaring at the dead woman with malicious gaze, came to Wanda's side, and started eating frantically. Eating with super speed was indeed fast. Snapped. The dead woman threw a piece of information over and said coldly, I have been isolated from the world for so long. You need to know about the changes in this world. New gods have risen on the earth, and the times are different. Advertisement. Wanda paused, frowning slightly. Pietro received the information with super speed, and it took a few seconds to browse through the thick information, and he was stunned. What happened? Wanda asks. This, Pietro looked dull. What did he see? God? Demon? Alien? All the messy things jumped out, and it almost subverted his three views. What shocked and frightened him even more was that indifferent and terrifying man, Martin, had such a terrifying strength that even the gods and demons died in his hands. The countless planets in the entire universe must be in the shadow of that person. These are all true? Isn't it a new way of brainwashing? Pietro looked ugly and his mind roared. Wanda put down the tableware, fetched the information with magic and quickly read it through, but was also silent. How can they overcome such a person? If they were still certain to escape when they were in Hydra's hands, but now they are in Martin's hands, this person who is like a living god, will let them go so easily? Wanda blinked. This person is really human? The dead woman gave a meaningful smile. Soon you will know. Soon, Wanda knew what the dead woman meant. She listened to the moving voice from the room, her face flushed, and she cursed the dog and the man and woman secretly in her heart. A long time passed. Martin walked out of the room with a happy face, glanced at Wanda, who was hot all over, and said lightly, Let's talk, what's the matter? Wanda was in a mess, and plucked up the courage to say, You brought us out of Hydra. What do you need us to do? Then what can you do for me? Martin looked up and down, his aggressive gaze, as if an unspeakable viciousness was brewing, and he swept away every detail of his body. Just when Wanda was a little angry, Martin looked away. The value of the two of you is not in the present, but in the future, may be useful. Also, Eric also knows that you were with me, but he doesn't seem to care about your life or death. Martin said casually, Magneto, really a cold guy. But I am more cold than him. The defense of the snake body Sithorn can start from now. Although it is a bit unreasonable, but at least there is preparation in hand. It is better than being killed by Sithorn, without any means. In addition, you have to change to another venue for training. Where to replace it? Wanda grabbed her chest by the collar warily. Advertisement. Martin didn't even look at her. He pushed the door open, squinted at the sun rising in the sky, and opened his arms as if he wanted to embrace the world. The blazing sun spreads and stretches Martin's shadow very long. Change to, on my planet. Leaving this sentence aside, Martin stepped in and out, leaving Wanda with a confused face. It's time to build Cybertron. All the plans have been worked out, and actions can be taken at any time. Sasser said to Martin, and at the same time released a huge flood of data. Martin nodded with satisfaction. Very well, then we will set off to build our planet where the original Asgard is. Asgard, the original location, was the upper level of the world tree. The Earth is in the middle of the world tree, so it is also called Midgard. The space gem flickered, huge amounts of spacetime vortex appeared, Martin stepped into it one step at a time, and at the next moment, he was already standing in the vacuum of the universe, with his feet on countless ruins. Martin swept his gaze and suddenly raised his hand. In an instant, a stream of light flew up, and a long sword exuding sin and death fell into Martin's hand. The sword of the dead? This thing was not destroyed along with Gila. And that's right, as the god of symbiosis, the vitality is the most tenacious. Martin looked up and down the sword. The last owner of this sword was terrific. He had a violent temper. Just because he was awakened by the cosmic gods who were doing things while he was sleeping, he drew his sword and killed a god on the spot. His temper was so bad that he exploded. He also created the species of symbiont. Martin put away the necromancer sword. Although he didn't use it and didn't like this artifact, it could be used by his subordinates. Advertisement hum. The space gem flickered, and the blue brilliance swept away thousands of light years in an instant, collecting a large number of debris and ruins, and Martin extracted a large number of metal elements inside. Dip. Congratulations to the host for taking a crucial step in the multi-universe battle for hegemony, and the Cybertron star will be built soon. A special prize draw for the artifact. Dip. Congratulations to the host, winning one of the top 10 artifacts, the Magic Ball. The Magic Ball, the supercomputer, is the driving device of Cybertron's core before the fire source. It contains almost endless ancient knowledge and technology, which constitutes the basic framework and central system of the entire Cybertron. Martin's eyes lit up. It's actually a magic ball. With this thing as the core of Cybertron, he didn't need to take out the fire source. In fact, the magic orb appeared earlier than the fire source, and in terms of time and version, the magic orb was the first planetary core of Cybertron. Martin stretched out his hand, an overall golden color with crystal-like patterns emerging on it, revealing mystery everywhere, and there are almost endless terrifying energy inside, exuding an ancient and mysterious atmosphere. This is the magic ball. Martin threw this artifact out, and in an instant, a nearly terrifying luster emerged from the magic orb, and the rules of the entire universe began to faintly distorted in front of the magic orb. There was a terrible roar, and the endless metal elements were gathered by Martin, around the magic ball, and began to build on top of each other. From the magic sphere, there is a vast expanse of knowledge like the sun under Martin's control. The magic sphere, the supercomputer, began to spontaneously construct the outline of Cybertron. The entire world tree was shrouded in this terrifying light, and in the vague, indescribable rules emerged, and even the entire universe faintly wanted to make concessions before this rule. This is almost unbelievable, and it has shattered the existing horizons from the level alone. What happened? There is the ruins of Asgard. Advertisement, which god's power is this golden light? Even the magic dragon gnawing at the roots of the world tree suddenly stopped at the moment, looking up at the top of the tree with a confused expression. And the attention of the real top beings triggered by this volatility is even more critical. The shadow of death is lingering, the eternal eyes are moving, infinity is waking up from sleep, annihilated with a gloomy face, looking from a distance. Ha! A delicious planet is forming, it will definitely fill my stomach. The planet devours are all excited, he doesn't care about anything else, but the delicious life planet makes him so obsessed, he can smell the deliciousness of the slowly forming Cybertron star across half of the universe. Although the 5 creation gods of this universe are all duplications, and at the same time, they are also the manifestation of the laws of a specific universe, they are indeed real. This volatility, it's that nasty guy again. Death looked at her with a gloomy face. Even if she was as noble as her, at the moment, she couldn't see the scene in the center of the golden light. As one of the highest laws in the universe, she was actually rejected. At the same time, she became more interested in the secrets of Martin. In the end, what is your origin? Death's eyes flashed. The appearance of the magic ball and the construction of the Cybertron star attracted the attention of the entire universe. Martin's figure is bathed in golden light, as if above the entire universe. He doesn't care about the opinions of some gods anymore. The construction of Cybertron is a crucial step he must take. The planet Cybertron is undoubtedly dominated by metal structures. When the time comes, the vibranium mine on the Earth will be transferred, and some mutated vibranium plants will be planted on Cybertron, which will be produced from the constantly vibranium element. These plants with large variations after being irradiated by the vibranium mine contain rare vibranium elements. Although it is difficult to extract and the reserves are extremely scarce, they can accumulate less, and they can also genetically modify these plants to make them produce more vibranium element. Also reconfigure the proportions of the atmosphere. Martin looked at the steel planet that had been initially built and smiled with satisfaction. He remembers that in the comics of the previous life, ordinary people on the planet can barely perform roar sucking when they are thrown on Cybertron. Cybertron and the Earth are very similar, including atmospheric composition and oxygen content. Shapeshifting King Kong also needs oxygen. Come to cool the body. Martin thought, and shot at the same time, using the magic ball to continuously modulate various settings, as if he were the creator, controlling the crazy gathering of massive amounts of matter, forming an incomparably powerful ball of matter, continuously filling the Cybertron star. This scene is no different from 25 creation gods, who created a planet with bare hands. In the end, a metal planet with a file size similar to that of the Earth quietly floated in the cosmic starry sky, exuding a deep metallic color as a whole. What? Suddenly, Martin noticed something and suddenly turned his head. A monster with a big head and a small body is standing in the distance, quietly watching Martin build Cybertron. A quiet observer from the moon, a frog chart. The observer. Martin stroked his chin. He remembered that this one also carried a horror artifact of the multi-level universe with him. Advertisement. The frog map is a ruthless character that is ignored by many people. Martin stepped over and looked at Frog 2. I am interested in you, Martin, but I will not interfere with your actions. Frog said indifferently, without a trace of expression on his stiff face, but all observers are like this. So much the better. Martin looked at the frog map and snorted at the same time. He noticed that there was a lot of prying eyes and directly used the power of Mind Gem to forcefully stun all these prying stuff. From now on, he will directly intervene in the big event of level universe, and the pattern will no longer be limited to the tiny life planet of the Earth. The battle for hegemony with some powerful guys will naturally unfold over time. With a move in Martin's heart, he directly set the magic ball, but anyone who meddles with Cybertron can kill it on the spot. Roar. A space vortex emerged. Martin entered directly and returned to Earth. He will step into the universe and face countless times of blood and fire disputes and conquests. Countless gods and civilizations will be at his feet, becoming his most humble servant and the corpse that lifts his throne high. Earth, that's it. Martin stood in space, looking down at the blue planet at his feet, and a flash of complexity flashed in his eyes, which was quickly cut off by him. It is impossible to say that he really has no affection for the Earth at all, but he can face his ambition of fighting with infinite diversity and fighting the truly terrifying and ancient immortal gods. The mere feelings are not worth mentioning. He stretched out his hand, as if grabbing the entire Earth in his hand. Countless satellites hovered around the Earth, capturing all Martin's actions. What is he doing? Advertisement. Tony shakes a glass of wine from time to time, frowns and sits on the sofa, worried. To say that the person he fears most now is not Magneto, but Martin. Magneto is at least personal. It's tricky, but it's not invincible. But Martin. When Martin makes a move, terrible destruction must happen, and countless people will be destroyed because of Martin's ambition. Moreover, As long as Tony thinks of Martin's ability to control machinery, his brain hurts. No matter how he transforms his armor, he can't break away from the category of creatures, unless he finds a special life material that can be carried with him and can be transformed instantly. Battle A. And this kind of life, shield, seems to be there, but the danger seems extremely high, and it takes time to develop into a biological armor. Suddenly, the Martin in the picture turned his head and looked straight, as if he had crossed the satellite and stared at the superhero Tony. Tony's heart jumped. Subconsciously, a button was clicked on the desktop, and a brand new suit of armor immediately appeared, covering Tony directly. This set of armor is the crystallization of his latest wisdom, money and black technology, and is called the anti-shapeshifting diamond armor. Roar, really? A space-time vortex appeared. Martin walked out of it, took the wine on the table directly, and poured himself a glass. What are you doing here? Tony raised his arm. The energy cannon had already been charged, and he asked in a deep voice. It's nothing, just come and see you, the superhero who took Avengers out to do it alone. It's a formal acquaintance. Maybe we won't have the chance to deal with each other in the future. Besides, you can put down your arm. Trust me, this toy is of no use to me. Martin smiled, not paying attention to Tony's nervousness and fear, lying comfortably on the high-end sofa, tasting the wine. Tony took a deep breath and went silent for a while, then patrolled the two infinite gems on Martin's right hand, took off his armor decisively, and sat on the opposite side of Martin. This is the wine my father left behind. You can drink it, it's your luck. Tony held his chin high and put on a fearless look, but the beating heart betrayed him. Advertisement, it's an honor. Martin smiled. So, tell me what you came from, Martin. How can you, a guy as powerful as a god, pay attention to me as a mortal? Tony scratched his forehead casually and wiped a drop of sweat from his forehead without a trace. In this universe, there are beings cursed by knowledge. Tony, you are special, you are the guy cursed by knowledge. Martin drank the drink, and at the same time showed his magnetic gloves. The two infinite gems on top of him started to emit a faint light under his will, seeming to perceive something. The mutual fluctuations became tighter and more rapid, but for some reason, they suddenly disconnected. Martin's eyes lit up suddenly, showing surprise and perplexity. Tony felt uneasy. What are you doing? Interesting. Martin slowly got up, dropped the cup to the ground, and walked towards Tony step by step. Tony, I really suspect that you are cursed by knowledge now. Is there something interesting in your head? Martin walked towards Tony step by step, then grabbed the opponent's neck and lifted it up. The alarm sounded throughout the Stark building. But Martin didn't care about it at all. He stared at Tony. His gaze seemed to cross all barriers to see the secret deep in Tony's head. He doubted. Tony of this universe. There is infinite gems in my mind. Martin frowned and passed the Supreme God armor, and the powerful system that came with it immediately began to scan, which was enough to scan the core power of the fixed star to see, crossing the flesh and bones, and directly seeing the inside of Tony's brain. But after an analysis, nothing was found. No matter how you look at it, this is a brain that is countless times smarter than an ordinary person. His thinking is extremely active, but no supernatural power is found. Even the Supreme God armor could not be scanned. Martin raised his right fist again, and the power of the two infinite gems was activated, trying to find the special place in Tony's head using the resonance frequency that only exists inside the infinite gems. Unfortunately, nothing, as if what happened just now was an illusion. Martin threw Tony to the ground, looking at the other person holding his throat as Roar sucked frantically, lost in thought. According to the memory of previous lives, in the Ultimate Universe numbered 1610, Tony's head in this universe did contain an infinite gems named Anthony. Then Mr. Fantastic designed to attack Tony and directly opened up to Tony. After cranial surgery, the named infinite gems was dug out. That is, the gem of wisdom. Originally Martin had planned, maybe the parallel universe he was in was so lucky that it exploded, and he would be able to dig out a gem of wisdom from Tony's head. He was originally looking for Tony with the mentality of giving it a try. But the final detection result was nothing. This is interesting. The reaction just now was accidental, or that this gem of wisdom really has superb self-wisdom. Martin stared at Tony, looking indifferently at a prey, tilted his head and looked at it for a long time before he chuckled. Perhaps, the precious and rare infinite gems, such as wisdom gems, are being spread into every universe in the entire multi-universe in the form of projections. Only when the time comes will they truly appear. Boom! There was a violent breaking sound, and Captain Marvel crashed directly through the building, stood in front of Tony, and confronted Martin guardingly. Advertisement, Martin, your behavior is too much. Captain Marvel looked ugly, especially when her eyes fell on the space gem. She really didn't expect that she had a tesseract that could cross the universe in a physical body, and the space gem was sealed inside. To make matters worse, this dangerous weapon was acquired by a more dangerous man, and it was impossible to contain it at all. Don't worry, Carol, if I want to kill Tony, you won't even have a chance to save him. I'm just verifying one thing, it's a shame. Martin shook his head. Tony's gaze was condensed, and all kinds of speculations flashed through his clever head. Although his wisdom was not the main attack on conspiracy and tricks, it was still far beyond ordinary people. Soon, he had a vague guess about Martin's weird behavior. It was just this. The guess result is extremely strange. Is there something in my head that has something to do with infinite gems? What does it mean to be cursed by knowledge? Tony chewed the information silently. Tony is very confident and even conceited. He firmly believes that his wisdom far exceeds Martin, but the terrible information gap caused by vision and experience is difficult to bridge by pure wisdom. Can only be shortened. More and more superhero rushed in, his muscles tensed, watching Martin nervously. Even Professor X used his spirit to communicate with Martin, persuading Martin not to be impulsive. No matter what happened, talk about it first. But Martin just smiled slightly. Avengers, a very domineering name, but... He pointed to the superhero present. The only ones who can really play are Carol and Tony. The others are here to make up the numbers. No one refuted, and no one dared to refute. Advertisement. Roar. A space-time vortex appeared behind Martin. Martin lay down behind him and disappeared into place in an instant. As soon as Martin left, the terrible feeling of suffocation suddenly disappeared. Suddenly, there was only a heavy and rapid roar-sucking sound in the whole hall, and the superhero present were sweating profusely. The screen lights up. Fury appeared on the screen. Tony, what did he do with you? What did you two talk to? Fury's face was gloomy. Tony sneered. I'm not an employee of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are just having, well, a friendly conversation. It has nothing to do with you. At this time, Tony was fed up with the decay and chaos of S.H.I.E.L.D., especially when the shadow of Hydra persisted. S.H.I.E.L.D. was not trustworthy at all. He intends to take Avengers out to do it alone. Fury was silent for a while and turned off the screen. The whole Earth's various threads are spinning in his head. In the end, he stood for a long time, and there was a fierceness in his one eye. I can only activate that thing. After trying to clear Hydra. Martin returned to the base of the Earth and ordered all the shapeshifting King Kong to prepare. Here at the base of the Earth, he will arrange a part of the shapeshifting King Kong for permanent residence. 99% of shapeshifting King Kong will follow him to the cosmic sky and land on Cybertron. Advertisement. Diaresis, our own planet, has been created, and the whole prosperous and rich universe has opened the door to us. Martin stood in the huge conference hall, looking at the figures, slowly speaking. His voice was powerful and powerful. Anyone who listens to it will feel powerful confidence in Martin's voice. A large number of shapeshifting King Kong began to act, which triggered another wave of tense guards on the Earth. They didn't show a dazed expression until they saw Yuan constantly shapeshifting King Kong stepping into the giant blue vortex one after another. Where are these robots? What are Martin's plans? Many people collapsed, and Martin was really tossing about half dead. No one is not afraid of Martin, strong, overbearing and unreasonable, and always able to do things. He is always the scary creature servants like gods and demons that were unheard of in the past. The moment Martin walked into the space-time tunnel, he turned around and took a look for the last time. as if he wanted to remember everything here, and immediately, he raised his hand, and the whole ground began to vibrate violently, and it was astonishingly huge. The vibranium mine was directly pulled by Martin, swallowed by the space-time vortex, and teleported to Cybertron. Demolition troops, I order you to stay on Earth for the time being. Your only task is to go to Antarctica and dig back the entire Antarctic vibranium mine. When you are done, I will take you to Cybertron, Martin said lightly. I am willing to serve you, my dear creator. The 6 burrowing tigers looked at Martin one after another, with respect and enthusiasm in their eyes. It's no secret that Antarctica also has a vibranium mine. The space-time vortex slowly closed. Many people still don't know what happened, let alone what it means, but they will understand soon. At that time, Martin and Cybertron, who really started to intervene in level universe events, will make all the gods understand one thing: he is fear originally. Boom. A terrifying light suddenly blasted from Cybertron, killing a spaceship hidden in the universe in an instant. In recent days, this kind of thing has happened too much. Who is it this time? The 3 empires, the other 8 realms, or are they from a world outside the galaxy? Starscream kept tapping on the screen, holding his chest, trying to put on a magnificent look, and acts. But everyone is busy, no one cares about him. Ha, Master Starscream, no one here cares about you. A little boy who was only a few tens of centimeters tall jumped up and ridiculed loudly. Shut up, confused, if you dare to laugh at me again, I will tear you apart. Starscream's face was gloomy, and he slammed his finger on the opponent, and directly turned the little thing over. Open black lens bracket, confusion, close black lens bracket, tape legion under the Decepticon Legion. Character: violent, chaos plus 45%, height, 0.5 meters. Advertisement: open black lens bracket, energy, 500,000, close black lens bracket, open black lens bracket, body, healthy, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, strength, level 2, close black lens bracket, famous quote, come and let me kill you, close black lens bracket. Evaluation: wandering in a violent mental state, the confusion is constantly struggling between the conflict between appearance and heart. If he needs roar to breathe, war is his oxygen. He yearns for destruction, destruction without reason or purpose. He likes to watch the panic he created slowly disperse in the crowd. Close black lens bracket. He got up in confusion, folded his hands on his shoulders, and looked at Starscream with a sneer. Although he was small, he was very aggressive. Starscream, you will take advantage of this time to be arrogant, and wait for my master Sonic to command you. I was really looking forward to seeing your face when I was in the Tape Legion. It is a pity that the entire Tape Army specializing in intelligence and spy invasion is now only itself. Otherwise Starscream would not have its turn to be arrogant. Starscream's face became more and more ugly, and he faintly felt that his position in the Decepticons was very dangerous. Go away, you blocked me. Boom! Shockwave knocked Starscream away with a punch, as if he was clearing out the rubbish blocking the road, and strode around. Starscream almost exploded. He roared angrily, staring at the blood-colored electronic eyes, only to find that the people in the whole hall were extremely busy, and it seemed that there was no use for him. Damn, you will regret it. Master Starscream will definitely become the noble King Kong of the Decepticons. Starscream rage seemed to realize something in the next second. He suddenly turned around and sang the hymn. Ah, Lord Megatron, your majesty is supreme. What can I do for you? Megatron came from outside the gate, staring coldly at Starscream, his eyes flashing red. I hope you, now, immediately, get out of here. Don't hinder all King Kong anymore. There are a lot of prying eyes outside. Fool, you, as the commander of the flight squadron, should take your troops to hunt them down instead of gesticulating here like an idiot. Now, get out. Megatron grinned, grabbed Starscream by the neck, and threw it outside with a loud bang. Advertisement: he was bored. Starscream, this guy, will stand up at any time and on any occasion to brush up on his sense of existence, always testing his leader's status. It is a comprehensive test, whether it is from prestige, voice, wisdom or other aspects. Oh, there are always people who want to murder me, Megatron. Master Megatron, this is the third wave today to explore Cybertron. Shockwave said directly to Megatron. Don't worry, the magic ball has a powerful artificial intelligence program that will kill all these foolish fools. Megatron said with a grim face, it's just a group of extremely sad guys. What awaits them is either destroyed or conquered. The magic ball is a terrifying artifact. Its computing power is so huge that it is difficult to evaluate the upper limit. Compared with the supercomputer such as the magic ball, Ultron and his like are simply weak. Megatron looked into the distance with his hands behind his back, watching the vast wilderness beyond the Steel City, planted with all kinds of weird CFBD gold plants, which made people dizzying. Well, although shape-shifting diamonds are a group of steel knots, they do not exclude plants, especially those plants that contain vibranium elements, which can produce a source of constantly vibranium for them. This Cybertron star is very satisfied with the shape-shifting kings of them. Even Dr. Banner is also very satisfied. He deliberately went to the botanical garden and built a small wooden house. He is always a human, and he has more pursuit of beautiful scenery. Since migrating to this new steel planet, more than half a month has passed. All people or shape-shifting King Kong are trying hard to adapt to the new planet and new environment. It looks pretty good now. At this time, he saw a large number of shape-shifting diamonds leaping into the air, tracing a long trajectory in the air, and he was immediately satisfied. HMPH, Starscream. I would have killed him if it weren't for his good ability. Megatron's eyes burst into cold light. Advertisement. Starscream's job ability and command ability, especially his ability to play tricks, have two brushes, so Megatron can't lack him. Otherwise, according to Megatron's temperament, Starscream, who repeatedly rebelled and jumped on the edge of being beaten, would have been killed by Megatron, whether it was in his previous life or in this life. In space. The small spaceship approaching saw a large number of shape-shifting King Kong frantically rushing towards it, and it was about to flee immediately. Damn, these weird robots have the ability to survive in space? This life form is a bit too powerful. Quill cursed, with a trace of panic on his face. He was about to flee for his life in his precious spaceship. As an outstanding thief from the top thief, predator, in the universe, Peter Jason Quill, who is known as Roar as the Star-Lord, ventured to accept the arduous task of exploring Cybertron. Quill knew too much about the danger of this task, but couldn't help it. It was because the other party gave too much money. Serious intelligence errors. Go back and let those bastards add money. Quill looked at the amazingly fast shape-shifting King Kong. His scalp was numb, especially the leader, who was more in size, and the mobile system was ridiculously quick. Quill is about to activate the space jump system. Boom. A fierce gunfire hit, and his precious spaceship was directly blown out of a terrible gap, pulled by the gravity of Cybertron, and fell uncontrollably. Ah. Quill let out a scream, put on the mask and was about to rush out, but a huge figure had already torn apart the outer layer of the spaceship, and grabbed him with a fierce gaze. It's barbaric, it's so barbaric. Do you all treat your guests like this? I will complain to you in the cosmic court. Quill with a blue nose and swollen face mumbled loudly, and his clothes were tattered. He was being dragged along by Starscream, who was in a bad mood. It is conceivable that the noble Star-Lord suffered a brutal beating. Shut up, stupid thing, and there is no bullshit cosmic court in this universe, you can't lie to me. Starscream turned around and poked it with a finger, and Quill immediately let out a scream. The light in Starscream's eyes flickered, scanning repeatedly. He had repeated this action many times, and he discovered that this cosmic thief named Quill had a very special body. Obviously it is an authentic carbon-based life, with the DNA sequence of the Earth, but there is an extremely unreasonable mystery in the body protecting you. Starscream knocked on his head and quickly scanned all the messy information in the database. According to his calculation, this guy named Quill, from the physical potential alone, is afraid that he can compete with the level Godfather artifact. This is very interesting. It is unexpected to catch a prisoner casually. If you send it to an ambulance for anatomy and research, you will surely earn a lot of super energy crystals. Listen, man, do you want to make money? Don't look at me like that. I know too well what people like you and me need. As long as you follow me, we can make a lot of money together. Think about it, mine wisdom plus your strength will become the brightest thief in the universe. Quill kept trying to use various reasons to persuade the vicious robot in front of him to let him go. For me, energy is money, and super energy crystals are money. Only Cybertron can produce super energy crystals in the entire universe. This is the life energy created for us by the great creator. Starscream sneered maliciously. Quill looked desperate and felt vaguely that he had been planted in this life. I knew I should listen to that old thing Yongdu's words, and follow him quietly. No, even the job of picking up that universe magic ball is better than coming here. Those damn Protoss who don't know the source have pitted me. Quill's resentment continued. He originally planned to search for the universe magic ball. It is said that many ruthless characters are looking for this ball, which can bring him huge income. Advertisement, but a group of covert guys came to him and gave him a price he couldn't refuse. They just asked him to explore this new planet and then send the relevant information to them. Look, how easy it is to make such a large sum of money in just one walk. I can guarantee that those guys must be from a certain Protoss. Even if they try to hide it, I can still feel the divine power in them. Quill thought about it. At this time, in Starscream's own information receiving device, an alarm sounded immediately. Warning. There is a huge amount of dark matter reaction of unknown origin 30 light-years away, and a suspected planetary file-size object has appeared. Comprehensive assessment, B-level event. This is an emergency alert, which can only be received by the residents of Cybertron who are at level 3 or higher, or who are in charge of a certain important part. Starscream's eyes flashed. Magic orb, apply for more detection data. DD. Starscream, Commander of Flight Squadron. The application was approved. The cold and dull voice of the magic ball rang in Starscream's information receiving device, and soon, a large amount of data and analysis reports were transmitted to Starscream. Name. Unknown planetary object. Open black lens bracket level. Level B, tentative, close black lens bracket. Assessment report. It is suspected to be a planet file-size battleship, or a life form of the planet file size. According to the comprehensive assessment results, 67% of them may be cosmic gods. Contents of relevant letters sent by the War Command, viewed, Level B incidents or Level Godfather incidents. Life entities below Level 4 are not recommended to intervene. Close black lens bracket. Starscream looked at the message directly from the magical orb of the planet's center, and couldn't help sighing. Damn it. When can there be a C-level event, or a D-level event? Starscream sighed. Class B is the level Godfather event. The worst consequence is that the galaxy is destroyed, and if the strength is too low, you still need to participate. That is a death-seeking, unless it is a large-scale Legion war. Advertisement level C is the level sub-Godfather event. The worst consequence is that some planets are blown up, which is fine. Level D is a level 4 event, but Starscream at level 3 can intervene. Starscream lowered his head suddenly and looked at Quill, who suddenly had a slight energy index on his body. Hey, what are you doing looking at me like this? Have you changed your mind? Quill's eyes widened and his face was delighted. Boom. In the next second, he was stunned by Starscream's punch. What does this guy have to do with the unknown planet of the Class B event? Find flowers, Starscream thought. Boom. At this moment, there was already a blue figure rising into the sky, carrying an exaggerated giant sword on his back. Obviously, Optimus Prime was dispatched. This guy has an artifact that faintly touches the level single universe level, but he is qualified to handle level B events alone. Huh, lucky guy. Starscream murmured, somewhat jealous. Optimus Prime burst directly into space like a meteor. Optimus Prime. Based on the evaluation of all the database information, the other party is suspected to be the cosmic god named Ego, with the ability to devour the planet and control the planet. With a rigid voice, the magic ball performed its duties meticulously. Advertisement. Optimus Prime raised his head slightly, and there was only endless peace in his azure blue eyes, as if a cosmic god could not arouse his inner fear and anxiety. He drew the great sword from his back and raised it high. Roar! A brilliant rainbow beam suddenly appeared. Bifrost, the highest product of Asgard's space teleportation magic, has been completely mastered by Optimus Prime at this moment. As long as he wants to, as long as he has a giant sword in his hand, he can instantly reach any corner of the universe. In a crash, he had already arrived in the shadow 300 light-years away, and came to the front of this moving planet in a flash. What? On this planet, a human face immediately appeared, seeming to be amazed by the sudden arrival of Optimus Prime. Bifrost. Unexpectedly, you actually obtained the magic technology of the Asgard Protoss that is well known throughout the universe. Optimus Prime held a giant sword in one hand and looked at Igo calmly. Intruding into Cybertron's area without authorization is already an act of declaring war. Even if you are a cosmic god, you have to bear the consequences. You actually know me? It seems that the robots made by Martin are not all rubbish. I thought that after Martin and Serta, you have no strong mechanical creations. Igo showed a mild smile with a weird face. It seems that he is not here to provoke. Is it strong or not? You will know if you experience it for yourself. Optimus Prime drew his sword directly, shot it with an amazing decisiveness, and cut it down without hesitation. Optimus Prime made a decisive move and directly drew his sword and chopped it down, which greatly exceeded Igo's expectations. The robot in front of me, alone, dare to do something to this great and ancient cosmic god of the universe? If Martin and Serta, these two terrifying guys, come over, no matter what, Igo wouldn't say anything. But the robot in front of me, let alone anything else, just look at the energy index in its body, and even the level sub-godfather hasn't arrived. Igo was all grinned. Stupid Scrap, your master is powerful, but it never means that scraps like you are equally powerful. I will let you see now, what is the universe god? The face of Igona that appeared on the surface of half of the planet showed a clear sneer and anger. He opened his mouth and let out a silent roar. A terrifying air current converged, mixed with the strong power of the gods, and he was about to erase Optimus Prime. Can be the next moment, a terrifying light suddenly broke out from the seemingly simple and unpretentious giant sword in the hands of Optimus Prime. The eruption at this moment, the terrifying luster that emerged, once reached the level Godfather, and it was the level Godfather, the pinnacle level. Die. Optimus Prime looked indifferent and his voice was calm. He leapt and slashed the sword severely. The terrifying power that was enough to shake the galaxy, at the moment, was gathered in a line by Optimus Prime, and all slashed to Igo in front of him. In an instant, countless fixed stars in the entire galaxy were covered by the sword of Optimus Prime. Advertisement hiss. The horrible roar erupted, and with a single sword, the airflow ejected by Igo was torn apart. Not to mention, it was instantly chopped up, leaving a scar that was tens of thousands of kilometers long on the surface of the planet. For a planet, the gap of tens of thousands of kilometers is already a serious blow. Igo immediately let out a dull roar, mixed with pain and crazy roar. When you invade this star field without authorization, you should think of such consequences. No matter what your purpose is, dying here is your only destination. Optimus Prime stood under the stars in the universe. Compared to Igo, he is extremely tiny, but this kind of insignificance has just caused terrible damage to Igo. What kind of weapon is that you can actually make a humble ant like you hurt a noble god? Igo moved his gaze, looked at the huge amounts of scars on his face, and let out a roar of rage. The sound was mixed with extreme shock. From this huge sword, he noticed some familiar auras. The Eternal Spear? Ulu? There are a lot of things that I haven't touched. Odin's trash. He died, the whole Asgard was destroyed, not to mention, all were taken to refine new artifacts. Igo was extremely angry, with a sense of noble dignity that had wandered for hundreds of millions of years, the shame of being trampled on by lowly species, and a shock at the strength of the mechanical life in front of him. In this universe, there are many artifacts of various levels, but the artifacts are just dead objects, and it depends on who uses them in the end. With this mechanical life, it can actually maximize the power of the top-level Godfather artifact? Igo was shocked. Your power is weaker than I thought. Optimus Prime slowly raised his head, glanced indifferently, and brandished the giant sword again, launching a terrifying attack. The planet Ego started to move, and Roar whistled at an astonishing speed. From time to time, the power to easily destroy the fixed star burst out, directly bombarding Optimus Prime, but at this time Optimus Prime would either use a giant sword to resist it, or just start Bifrost to avoid it. Gradually, terrible fluctuations erupted frequently, and Ego's body was already covered with scars, and in some parts of the Earth's core, she could even directly see the twinkling white brilliance, which is the energy core of Ego that supports this planet. Damn, you damn thing! Advertisement Igor roared again and again, directly destroying a large number of nearby planets, venting his anger, and at the same time constantly blasting out terrible attacks, directly tearing up a large amount of space. Optimus Prime looked indifferent and shot at the same time, leaving a large amount of scars on Eagle again. Not enough energy. Optimus Prime frowned. The tens of millions of energy reserves, after the confrontation with Ego, forcibly spurring the giant sword to attack, the energy consumption has reached an exaggerated level. It must be done quickly. Optimus Prime raised his head and kept scanning, and finally locked a huge crack. Boom! Huge amounts of Bifrost arrived, instantly teleporting Optimus Prime to the surface of Ego's body. The divine power in Ego seriously interferes with Bifrost's power, otherwise Optimus Prime can enter Ego directly to destroy its core. Now, it's not too late. Optimus Prime smashed Ego's supernatural power vortex, then jumped into the crack, and at the same time thrust the huge sword fiercely to the sides, slid down, and once again cut a terrible wound. Get out, you little bug! Igor roared again and again, but at the same time a little panic, constantly energy from the core of the Earth, shockwave erupted, trying to drive Optimus Prime out. It's useless, your destiny is doomed. Optimus Prime's voice was cold, and he rushed down with the power of the giant sword, and finally came to the core of the Earth. Advertisement He flipped the great sword, raised it high, and then pierced into the core severely in a low growl. It was enough to easily extinguish the terrifying power of the fixed star. In the sharp confrontation of two different divine powers, at the moment burst out. It came out and turned into terrifying cosmic ripples, suddenly mixed with the dead silence that wiped out everything. Igo couldn't help letting out a sharp wailing. At the moment, the huge planetary body began to slowly collapse, and the terrible cracks spread rapidly and gradually spread all over his body. Boom! A loud noise that shook a river system erupted. Igo exploded directly, and the terrifying power broke out in all directions in the chaos, and then slowly dissipated after a long time. At the core of the explosion, the aftermath gradually subsided, and the dilapidated figure of Optimus Prime was standing there in embarrassment, holding a mass of solid-like luminous matter in his hand, and there was a faint remnant of divine power surging on it. This is the core of Ego, and Optimus Prime chopped it down. Finally dead. Optimus Prime swept his eyes to confirm this. At the moment, his body was in extremely bad condition, half of his arms were gone, and most of his face was severely damaged. His chest was a symbol of shapeshifting the vitality of King Kong. At the moment, his body was dim and his energy reserves had bottomed out. But he won after all. Bifrost. Optimus Prime held a huge sword high. The tip of the sword pointed directly at the deep space of the universe, and accompanied by a brilliant beam of light suddenly descended. He was like a god of war who had just slaughtered the gods, stepping on the corpse of the gods and stepping up a new step. The rainbow dissipated. Optimus Prime disappeared in place.